What is something you deeply regret doing as a child that still affects you to this day? I got my dog when I was 11, a black lab puppy with paws too big for her body and ears that never quite figured out which way to flop. I named her Penny. She was wild, smart, always moving, pure energy packed into muscle and fluff. I raised her myself, trained her, fed her, walked her after school, brushed her down when she rolled in mud. She was my shadow. My parents weren't really dog people. My mom tolerated her. My dad actively hated having her around. He said she scratched the floors, barked too loud, made the house smell like a barn. Anytime I needed someone to watch her, just for a night, a few hours, he'd throw a fit, said it wasn't his job, that I should have thought about this before begging for a dog. The only reason I even got her was because my grandma paid for the adoption and the first round of vet visits. My parents saw it as a hassle they didn't ask for. When I was 13, I broke my leg playing soccer at school, compound fracture. They took me straight to the hospital, and I ended up staying a few days. My mom was with me most of the time. Before she left the house, I asked her to make sure my dad looked after Penny. Food, water, let her out, basic stuff. He said yes. I heard him say it on speakerphone. Yeah, I got it. Jesus. When I came home, Penny looked like hell. She'd lost weight in just a few days. Her ribs were showing. Her water bowl was bone dry and had dust in it. Her bed was soaked with pee. Her fur was matted, and she was barely lifting her head. She didn't even get up to greet me, just wagged her tail once and let out this low little whine. I dropped my crutches and crawled to her on the floor. She licked my face weakly. I asked my dad what happened, and he said, I let her out once. I figured she'd be fine. She wasn't fine. She had a urinary tract infection so bad she couldn't stop leaking. She'd been laying in her own waste for days. The vet said it was serious, said it would take antibiotics, fluids, and time. I was ready to do it. Anything. I would have skipped school if I had to, but the vet bill wasn't cheap. My mom came into my room that night and sat on the edge of my bed. She looked exhausted, defeated. She said my dad refused to spend the money on meds. Said she couldn't afford it either, not after my hospital bill. She gave me a choice: keep Penny and let her suffer, or give her up to a shelter where they might have more resources. So I gave her up. I cried the entire car ride there. Penny sat in the back seat and laid her head in my lap. She didn't understand what was happening. When we handed her off at the front desk, she looked back at me as they led her away. I remember the way her nails clicked on the floor, how she hesitated at the end of the leash. When we got home, I went straight to my room and didn't talk to anyone for 2 days. My dad made some shitty joke about how that mutt was more trouble than she was worth. I hated him for it. I hated him for everything. For letting her suffer, for not feeding her, for killing her, because that's what it felt like. A year passed, then another. I still thought about her every day. When I was 16, I borrowed my friend's car and drove back to the shelter. I told them my name, the date I surrendered her, asked if they had records. They found her file. She died at the shelter. She never got adopted. The UTI spread to her kidneys. They tried to treat it, but she didn't respond. She went downhill fast and was euthanized 3 months after I left her there, alone. I sat in the car outside the shelter and cried so hard I threw up. I hadn't cried like that since the day we gave her away. My hands were shaking. I punched the steering wheel until my knuckles bled. Then I drove home and didn't say a word about it to anyone. I still dream about her sometimes. I see her running in the yard, bringing me a tennis ball. That stupid big grin on her face. I wake up and for a split second, I forget she's gone. I remember the way she used to curl up next to me at night, her back pressed against my leg, sighing like she finally felt safe. I think about how I was the only one who ever really loved her, and I gave her up. I was just a kid, but that doesn't matter. I live with it. I always will.